Today on Weekend Review, Guns and Hoses will be making its return to the Terrace area. The Northwest has seen another labor disruption, and a former Prince Rupert resident now has a new children's book out now. Hello and thank you for joining us here on Weekend Review, where we recap all the news around the Northwest. Well, a born and raised Prince Rupert resident, Wendy Redmond, made the move to the United States to pursue a journalism career working in the news department, but in the last couple of years, she has found another dream to chase. Life takes twists and turns for everyone, and for Wendy Redmond, her moment was writing children's books. In the past couple of years, Wendy has put a good part of her life dedicating her to almost 20 books, with one of them ready to be published this week.
I've really enjoyed this new chapter of my life. I never thought that this would be something that I would be doing. It was never a dream. The dream was always to be a news anchor.
Now, JoJo Go-Go is her official introduction to the world as being an author, while also being a self-publisher.
So JoJo Go-Go is the first book. It's about this girl, this little girl that has extreme amounts of energy, and the mother trying to keep her out of trouble and trying to see how, she can put that energy to good use instead of, hurting herself around the house.
And as a mother of two kids, she cannot stress enough the importance of prioritizing literacy education to her children as soon as they have the ability to comprehend the language.
It is so important to get reading to your kids before they are able to read, right? So, as soon as you can, start reading to them. They will hear so many more words if you do that. They will perform better in school. There are many studies that show how much better they perform in school. They'll start learning to recognize words. But I think overall, there are so many benefits.
She also thinks that it can help with parent-child relationships as a form of bonding time. And it's a more interesting time to be a children's book writer, as the market has changed exponentially in a more digital age.
So now we're in the days of, anybody can publish a book. So there are just so many books out there. So it's hard to get noticed, I think. And then you throw in AI on top of that, and that really saturates the market. But I do believe that there is something special about books that are written from the heart and by a real person and illustrated by a real person as well, and not just, something that the computer threw together.
Being born and raised in Prince Rupert, she moved to the United States to work in the newsroom and now resided in the state of Washington. She does not plan to stop writing these books and is looking to incorporate parts of the Northwest, BC in particular, into her future library.
My kids certainly love these books, and I hope that other kids will enjoy them as well.
From CFTK-TV, I'm Damian Smith. Well, anyone who has driven past the Heisler Center within the past couple of months might have noticed that the site's main road was in the process of being realigned to allow for people to get better access to the site. And now that work has finally been finished. The Heisler Center project, which is located on the land that was once home to Kitimat's Hospital, can now move on to the next phase of its development. And this project is to be said to represent a great economic opportunity for the Haisla Nation, as its long-term goal is to eventually create a multi-use development area with housing units, commercial and retail spaces, as well as a few other community-based facilities, with a 49-room condo just finishing construction. Well, a motor vehicle incident that reportedly occurred Wednesday evening kept traffic delayed throughout the morning. Motorists were delayed by a single-lane alternating traffic throughout the morning, and police were on the scene between Onion Lake and Lake Kells Lake Lodge Road, about 36 kilometers north of Kitimat. Visible on the scene was a white vehicle that appeared to have gone into the ditch and was heavily damaged, and the RCMP have yet to release any details on the crash. According to Drive BC, traffic is no longer affected. Now, Northern Health has put out another statement by detailing that there has been an increase in overdoses in Prince Rupert linked to drugs sold as down. Of many recommendations to prevent future overdoses from occurring, Northern Health is urging people to carry naloxone, to not mix drugs with alcohol, and to download the Lifeguard or Be Safe app if someone is using alone. They also recommend using local supports like the Prince Rupert Specialized MHSU Outreach or drug checking and sample collection in Terrace. Up next, we preview the upcoming Guns N' Hoses hockey game in Terrace. Welcome back. Well, after a brief year hiatus, another staple in the Terrace community will be making its return very shortly.
Now may be one of the oldest lighthearted rivalries in sports, but Guns N' Hoses will be making its return next Friday in a clash between the RCMP and the Terrace Fire Department.
We don't always get to see people on their finest day, so it's nice to get to see our families out and our friends and the community out supporting us and getting to know them a little bit better than just at work.
It's pretty dear to our heart. It's been going since 2009, and it's been such a community event. And you know, we love seeing all the kids there, and we also get to help out local kids, which is what it's all about in the end.
The event was not able to be run last year in the Terrace community, but it was not due to a lack of players, and both sides will be adding some new players to their squads.
Our newest firefighter here is going to join us. I don't know how much hockey he's played, but he's going to come out. So we're always looking to see who we can add and get the guys together from Kitimat and Rupert and Terrace and everywhere. It's just fun to see everyone again.
We have a pretty big rotation of members in and out of the community here, so we usually have a new squad each year. So we try to keep it as local as we can. So there's about 4 or 5 of the members from town playing, and then we get some players from other communities to help out. We'll keep it as local as we can.
We'll see which side comes out with the win at the Terrace Sportsplex, with the firefighters having more of a historical lead in the win column since this event started back in 2009. Doors will be open at 5:30 p.m., followed by a 6:30 puck drop.
We kind of, for a while, we're trading back and forth, and it's always fun to get the win, but then you're still going to be, work together after and be buddies after the game. So you kind of have to, put that aside. But for game night, it's pretty fun to get in there and battle it out with them.
At the end of the game, we're hanging out together and we're friends again, and it's a fun event. We joke that it's pretty competitive, but at the end of the day, it's just fun to see the kids with the different hats on and cheering for either side. There's usually a few more firefighter fans than police fans.
Now, tickets will be sold at the door for $5 per child, $10 for adult, and it will be free for children under 3 years of age. From Terrace, I'm Damian Smith. And also, the City of Terrace recently sent out a public notification on their website informing the local population that they have begun work on a new project. The city is currently in the process of installing a brand new crosswalk at the bottom of Lanphier Hill, in addition to their plans to make a few other improvements, and they'll be targeting the road between the Howe Creek trails so that the safety for both drivers and any walking pedestrians is maximized. A speed detection radar will also be added to remind drivers to slow down, and create concrete barriers will be placed on both sides of the road flashers, and these flashers will be seen into place to warn drivers that they are nearing the crosswalk, and nearby trees have also been altered in order to improve the sight lines of the general area. Now, this past weekend, the 64th edition of the Terrace Rotary TV auction took place over the span of 13 hours on November 2nd and the 3rd. The auction raised about $74,000 with 382 total items donated over the weekend, and there were also 236 businesses who donated to the cause. For the amount of bidders, the club amassed over 3,300 total bids, along with about $44,000 in auction sales, and this money is to be used to fund community projects and help local organizations meet their needs. Now, in a recent statement, it was revealed that the community of Thornhill is set to be the first benefactor of the latest grant being given out by the BC provincial government. The grant in question is said to be a total of $11.89 million, and while it is being given to the Kitimat-Stikine district to decide what to do with it, about $904,000 of those funds is being committed to Thornhill so that they can build a well and to make sure that the community's water supply is secure. It's also been estimated that over a span of 5 years or so, just a bit under $2.38 million of the grant can be spent yearly in order to best help out the various communities throughout the regional district of Kitimat-Stikine in a variety of different ways. Now, a Terrace-born artist that has been chasing her dreams around the world has returned home to showcase the adventure at the Terrace Art Gallery. CFTK's Jayleen Matthews caught up with wildlife guide Marlo Shaw to hear about her exhibition.
The show is 3 years in the making, a collection of photographs, paintings, and installation.
The photography is from my work as a wildlife guide, and the paintings I've been creating through the last number of years as, you know, kind of like my respite from work also. So when I'm home, I get to just kind of get some separation from being out in the field and just hide away in my studio and paint away and reflect on some of the things that I've seen.
Wildlife guide Marlo Shaw's work has taken her around the world, and this show features works from the Great Bear Rainforest, Churchill, Manitoba, Greenland, and Antarctica.
I feel really grateful for the opportunity to see all of those different spots and get some inspiration and consistency from those locations as well. Being a naturalist and an observer of the natural environment in those places, you start to see patterns in different parts of the world, and you just get this like much larger holistic view of nature and nature's processes, and that's a big part of this show. That's why I have all of the different locations that I've worked in one room, because to me it really feels all one, really connected. And there are also places that I really love, and this whole show is kind of a reflection of the people and the places that I care a lot about. So
Shaw has brought that love for connection with nature into her show as an interactive piece.
In creating this show, I've also added an element that I'm hoping can be reflective for people who are coming to visit. And so, you know, how can we be more connected to nature? We're going to have an opportunity for people to come in and just write suggestions, because people have different ways that they go about this, right? Whether it's, you know, literally going outside and touching the dirt with your toes, or, you know, bringing your kids out to rake the leaves one day, or, you know, painting the environment around you so that you can really observe the way that nature has kind of engineered the world around us, or taking photos and watching wildlife, waiting for wildlife, all of those things. So I'm just curious what other people do, because it's really what my whole world revolves around, is trying to help connect people to place.
Echo by Marlo Shaw runs at the Terrace Art Gallery for the entire month of November.
This is totally a dream come true. It's beautiful. It's better than I ever could have imagined.
For CFTK-TV News, I'm Jayleen Matthews.
Now, dozens of new faces are about to descend on BC's legislature after 57 rookies were elected to the 93-seat legislature in the October 19th election. First-time elected New Democrat Diana Gibson said that she felt the energy of the new faces and voices during the NDP's first caucus meeting last week, after the NDP secured a very slim one-seat majority victory in the election. Gibson also said she is proud to be among the record number of women candidates elected by the NDP, and the party elected 31 women to the party's 47-member caucus, which is a BC provincial record. After the break, MP Taylor Bachrach rose in Parliament to question the Canadian Health Minister. Well, the Kitimat RCMP just released their weekly report for the dates between October 24th up until the 30th. And included in the report is an overnight windshield break, a prohibited driver, as well as possible impaired driver. And there was also a single vehicle collision on Monday, October 26th at the 1900 block of the Kitimat Village Road. Now, MP Taylor Bachrach rose in Parliament to question the health minister on why occupational therapists don't qualify for the loans forgiveness program. Here's CFTK's Jayleen Matthews once again with the story.
MP Taylor Bachrach says it's an oversight that certain critical healthcare positions don't qualify for loans forgiveness in rural areas like Northwest BC.
Mr. Speaker, I recently met with a healthcare worker in Terrace whose job as a psychiatric occupational therapist is critical in addressing the toxic drug and mental health crises in our communities. She's the only graduate from her class that's working in a northern rural community. But here's the thing. This government's student loan forgiveness program excludes occupational therapists. This is clearly an oversight, and my question for the government is a very simple one. Will it correct its error and ensure that people like this person in Terrace, BC, get the loan forgiveness that they so deserve?
The Minister of Health didn't negate MP Bachrach's claims, but made no commitments.
And I was with the member in Terrace, and he's absolutely right. There are very significant challenges in rural and remote communities. I absolutely am looking forward to talking to him on that issue. Our loan forgiveness program for doctors and nurses and hygienists and physiotherapists has been a tremendous success in helping with workforce issues. I want to expand that, but I would call on him to work with us on health data, because it's one of the main things that can help us in rural and remote communities. Right now, the Conservatives have taken hostage this Parliament. They will not allow a data bill to move forward, which will save lives and is critically needed, is nonpartisan. Let's get to work. Let's pass that bill.
The bill MP Holland mentioned would streamline and secure health data across jurisdictions, ensuring health information is interoperable, allowing practitioners access to all their patients' health history and data. It was tabled last June. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
And after a fair amount of what were said to be near-miss accidents involving emergency vehicles that were located near the Kitimat Fire Hall, some precautions have been taken to try and prevent said accidents. The fire hall now has had new painted line road markings added just outside of both sides of the station, and they automatically become active to give the emergency vehicles the right of way whenever they need to get to an emergency situation quickly. The first responders working at the hall are hopeful that the lines will work, as well as a reminder to local residents to be cautious whenever they happen to drive by the hall. And now they no longer have to guess where it's safe to be whenever any of the vehicles are activating. Now, we have just been made aware that the new Terrace Hospital will be given a Tsimshian name, as on Wednesday it was announced that it will be called the Kasiyan Regional Hospital. Kasiyan is the Smolyak's name for the Skeena River, and Northern Health also looks to recognize the contributions that Dr. Stanley Mills and others made to the region, and that Mills's name will be recognized in the facility with a history wall, and will also have the ambulatory care unit named after him. Northern Health concluded that the new name is to recognize the territory that the hospital was built in and the region that it hopes to serve. BC was bracing for a labor disruption at all ports as a province-wide lockout of more than 700 foremen was expected to begin, and the lockout, which was initiated by the BC Maritime Employers Association, comes after 2 years of bargaining with the International Longshore and Warehouse Union Local 514 to renew their collective agreement that expired back in March of 2023. Last Thursday, the union issued a 72-hour notice for job action that would begin Monday at 8 a.m., and the move prompted the Employers Association to issue a formal notice that will defensively lock out members of the union starting at the same time. Still to come, port closures are to affect the local economy here in the Northwest. Welcome back. Well, the operations at provincial ports have ground to a halt, and the BC Maritime Employers Association locked out 700 foremen at 4:30 on Monday afternoon, shutting down ports up and down the coast. As CTV's Ben Milger reports, manufacturers and retailers across the country could be hit hard by the labor dispute.
An estimated $800 million in daily trade flows through BC ports. It's just come to a grinding halt. 700 foremen without a contract for close to 2 years are now on the picket lines, locked out by their employer. Wages and automation are the sticking points in the dispute.
The employer said the offer we put on the table Wednesday is still good to go. You agree to that, and we don't need any lockout. Of course, the union said if we wanted that offer, we would have agreed to it then.
The lockout came in response to the workers issuing a strike notice. The union says it was only going to refuse overtime, but the employer wasn't prepared to risk a full-scale walk-off before it got a chance to safely wind down operations. The longer containers like these sit on the dock, the more likely people are to feel the impact through potential shortages on store shelves.
We have orders on the containers that have sold orders. We have Black Friday merchandise coming in. We've got Boxing Day merchandise coming in. It'll affect us quite a bit.
Canadian manufacturers who ship through BC ports, unable to move their products to overseas buyers, could also feel the squeeze.
BC ports are so important for the entire economy that we are asking the federal government to step in rapidly to end the current work stoppage.
The federal government says mediators are available to help the two sides reach an agreement, but on day one of this potentially costly impasse, there's no indication yet the feds are willing to force an end to this labor dispute. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
And also included in the province-wide port strike is the Prince Rupert Port, who also saw some gradual disruptions by 8 a.m. on Monday morning before they were locked out of their workspace at 4:30 p.m. And out of the 700 total foremen that were locked out, 75 of them reside at the Prince Rupert Port, and they have since set up their own picket line at Scott Road. The main parties affected by the closure at the Port of Prince Rupert are the Fairview Container Terminal and the Westview Wood Pellet Terminal, who have quite the economic significance due to the fact that they both act as a North American gateways to trading with foreign markets over in Europe and Asia. However, it was not disclosed on just how the other 5 Prince Rupert terminals were affected by the strike. And now back to the recent BC election and the investigation underway after mistakes were made, including an uncounted box of 861 ballots. CTV's Rob Buffum has more of the details.
Digital counters like these were used across BC for the first time in a provincial election. But more than 2 weeks later, Elections BC admits mistakes happened in the counting process.
Elections BC is going to be carrying out a full and complete review of this issue. This includes the identification of any necessary steps to prevent this from occurring in the future.
What did occur, an entire box of ballots in Prince George Mackenzie with 861 votes went uncounted. Officials point out the margin of victory there in the thousands, so that didn't affect the outcome, but also acknowledge other mistakes were made in 5 ridings where a total of 779 out-of-district ballots cast for 69 other ridings weren't reported due to data entry errors.
Election officials were working 14 hours or more on voting days, and on final voting day in particular, faced extremely challenging weather conditions in many parts of the province. These conditions likely contributed to these mistakes.
Notably, those out-of-district ballots changed the result in the province's tightest race, Surrey-Guildford, which the NDP won to earn a majority, but its lead now shrunk by 6 votes and a 21-vote margin.
It leads to question the integrity of the entire system. Now, I think, these are likely just human errors. I don't think there was any intent, but this is why I think we should have an independent review.
On the street, reaction is mixed.
It should be efficient. There shouldn't be any room for error.
I'm just glad that it's been brought to the surface.
It just exacerbates the polarization that we've already got in the system and will make, as I say, some people more suspicious, where others, I think, will be more comfortable with it.
And that will be all for this week's version of Week in Review. Make sure to tune in to our regular newscast coming up on Monday at 5, 6, and 11 o'clock here on CFTK-TV. Thank you very much for tuning in.